Hey, what's up everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. Today we're doing another edition in my series where I'm counting down my favorite albums from a specific subgenre of metal. And today we are going to be tackling melodic death metal. So I'm just going to be doing a top 10 for melodic death metal. It's not necessarily my go-to genre. I like more old school death metal than the melodic stuff. But that being said, there's still a handful of melodic death metal bands and albums that I absolutely adore. And when I'm in the mood for it, like, these albums are all really top-notch stuff. I don't necessarily seek out too many like modern melodic death metal bands. It just doesn't necessarily do it for me. So as you'll see from this list, the vast majority of these are older albums, like older than the last 15 years. There might be one newer one in here, but beyond that, yeah, these are mostly from the heyday of melodic death metal in the late 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, maybe there'll be some surprises in here, give you some albums to check out. And as usual, I would love to get your recommendations and your list down below. Always like to get conversations going, and I always like to check out some albums I haven't heard before. So only limiting this to 10. There's going to be a ton that I'm just not naming. It doesn't mean I don't like them. Chances are I do. It's just, yeah, limiting to 10. These are just the best of the best, in my personal opinion, at this moment in time. So let's get this going. Coming in 10th place, I'm going with In Flames with their debut album, Lunar from 1994. That might be a little shocking to people. I know everyone seems to love the Jester Race as In Flames' masterpiece, but for me, I much prefer Lunar Strain. I just think the songs on this album stand out a little bit more. You got the absolutely awesome vocals by Michael Stanning from Tranquillity, and I feel like his vocals on here really propel it to the next level. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of their next vocalist. I can't even remember his name, but yeah, I'm not even a huge In Flames fan, to be honest, but this album I do really like, and the songs on here just stand the test of time. It's a very unique album, bringing in some folky instrumentation as well. But yeah, you got songs like Behind Space, Lunar Strain, Upon an Oaken Throne, just really thrashy, fast, melodic death metal. All in all, absolute awesome album. That's why I just cracked my list in at number 10. Up next at number 9, I'm going with a more modern one. This is the one, like, more recent album on this list, and I'm going with Aephanemer with their album Prokopton from 2019. So this is a band from France, very much in the like symphonic, melodic, death metal vein, but yeah, just really great riffs, great solos. It's female fronted as well, and her voice is really raspy, kind of Jeff Walker-esque from Carcass, and it really suits the music very well. I believe she plays bass as well, but really solid songs on here like Bloodline, If I Should Die, the closing track on this album is absolutely amazing. Dissonance Within. I could have even gone with their most recent album from last year, Dream of Wilderness, but I feel like Prokopton edges it out by a hair. This was the album right before that, and yeah, very solid addition to my list. If you have not heard this band, strongly suggest you go check them out if you're into melodic death metal, because it kicks ass. Up next at number 8, maybe more of an underrated one. I'm going with Passive Possession and their album Promises in Blood from 2005. This band is probably most well known for featuring George Corpsegrinder Fisher on vocals. If you ever wondered what Corpsegrinder's vocals would sound like in a melodic death metal band, this is it. This is the result, and wow, just amazing. This is one of the best vocal performances of his career, in my opinion, just really going from the low grunts that he's known for to the crazy highs that he doesn't really do that much anymore in Cannibal Corpse. He did for a while, so if you love the era like Gallery of Suicide, Bloodthirst, albums in that vein where he really has the range from the low to high screams, this album is chocked full of that, but over a backdrop of melodic death metal, and somehow it just really works. I absolutely love this. Bleed the Meek, Bring Me the Head of Christ, Darklands, all in all, front to back, just a super enjoyable, fun album. I absolutely love it. I love Corpsegrinder, and yeah, that album's in at number 8. Up next at number 7, going with an all-time classic, At the Gates with Slaughter of the Soul from 1995. So yeah, arguably this is one of the first true like melodic death metal masterpieces, really set the bar for a lot of future bands to kind of copy what they were doing. But yeah, this is a very well done album. I know it gets a ton of praise. Maybe this could be considered an overrated album, possibly, but at the same time, I think it's worthy of the praise. It's a very solid album, all-time classic. You got songs like Blinded by Fear, Under a Serpent Sun, Cold. The vocals, the riffs, just everything you want in a melodic death metal album is here, and that is why it is on my list in at number 7. Up next at number 6, I'm going with Children of Bodom and their sophomore album Hatebreeder from 1999. So over the course of Children of Bodom's career, they definitely changed style a little bit. I much prefer their early era, like their first 3 albums are all top-notch in my books. After that, kind of tailed off a little bit, but Hatebreeder, wow, the best of the best here, kind of perfectly combining melodic death metal with hints of power metal and got lots of keyboards in there as well. But the guitar playing on here, just next world. Alexei Leho, definitely taken from us too young, and this album is just absolutely amazing. Silent Night, Bodom Night, Downfall, Towards Dead End, super catchy stuff, melodic yet aggressive at the same time, absolute masterpiece, easy addition to this list. Now let's get into the top 5, my 5 favorite melodic death metal albums. So coming in at number 5, I'm going with Dark Tranquillity and their sophomore album, The Gallery, from 1995. So yeah, this is another band that was one of the first on the Gothenburg scene, along with like At the Gates and In Flames. And this, in my opinion, is their masterpiece. This is a band that's kind of changed their sound over time as well. But once again, I much prefer their earlier era, like this album and The Mind's Eye. But The Gallery, absolute masterpiece. Easily my favorite album by them, and one of the best melodic death metal albums of all time, in my opinion. You got songs like Punish My Heaven, the title track, The Gallery, The Emptiness from Which I Fed. Just front to back, not really any weak moments here. Super standout album in this subgenre. Easy addition to my top 5. Up next at number 4, I'm going with Kalma and their sophomore album, They Will Return, from 2002. This was a really tough choice for me for which Kalma album I would put here, because both their debut and their sophomore album are so neck and neck for me for which one is better. I ended up going with They Will Return, but if you put the debut on here, I would have no qualms about that. It's just as good, if not better. But for right now, I'm going with They Will Return. So let's talk about that album. Kind of a similar style to Children of Bodom, kind of bringing in some keyboards and some elements of power metal in with the melodic death metal. But they just really make it work and got like swamp themes. And it's just masterclass in twin guitar harmonies and just excellent songwriting throughout. Catchy choruses, great vocals. Absolutely everything you want, and another album with absolutely no weak moments, front to back, absolutely amazing. Best songs on here, Principal Hero, the title track, They Will Return, The Blind Leader, the guitar part in there is just absolutely amazing. I am saying absolutely way too many times, so get some new language here, man. I gotta get some new terms in my vocabulary. But anyways, that's it at number 4. Let's move this right along to number 3. So up at number 3, I'm going with Carcass and their album Necroticism from 1991. So you might be saying, hey, hold on, that's not really a melodic death metal album. Carcass really only became truly a melodic death metal band with their album after that, Heartwork. But to me, like, hear me out, I feel like they laid the groundwork for that album here with Necroticism, and I much prefer Necroticism over Heartwork. This is still a blend of like gore grind, grindcore, and old school death metal, but they started infusing it with so much melody, especially on the solo side, and it really laid the groundwork for what would come with an album like Heartwork. So while Necroticism may not be considered truly a melodic death metal album, I'm putting it on here instead of Heartwork because I much prefer the approach here, and I feel like this album really did set the stage for what could be done in this style of death metal by infusing so much melody in with the solos and guitar parts. And yeah, I just like this album more than Heartwork, so that's why I put this one here instead. Arguably, yeah, you could say only Heartwork and onwards is melodic death metal in Carcass's career. This one doesn't really get that, but I feel like it still combines enough melody in here with the death metal and gore grind that it qualifies for this list. So if you want to argue with me on that, that's okay, but for me, it's in at number 3. Favorite songs on here, Corporal Jigsaw Quandary, Incarnated Solvent Abuse, Lavaging Expectorate of Lysergide Composition. Try to say that 10 times fast, but yeah, all in all, absolute masterpiece of an album. Like I said, arguably maybe this should be on my regular death metal list as opposed to the melodic death metal list, but whatever. It's here for today, so let's move it along. Up next at number 2, another one that might be a little bit underrated, and I'm going with Quovatis and their album Day Into Night from the year 2000. So this is a Canadian band from Quebec, And they really play a unique blend of like technical death metal, but infusing it with so much melody that it still, in my opinion, qualifies as melodic death metal album, even though it's probably a little more technical than most of the other albums on this list. But wow, this is just a masterpiece of an album. Totally does not get enough recognition. If you've not heard this album before, I strongly suggest you go check it out. The guitar playing and drumming on this album is out of this world, and it's catchy songs and just beautiful guitar parts as well. You got a lengthy epic like On the Shores of Ithaca, then you got a fast one like Mute Requiem, Absolution, and you even got some nice instrumentals throughout this album as well. Just all in all, absolute masterpiece of an album. Go check it out if you have not heard it. So that just leaves one. My favorite melodic death metal album of all time is arguably something that isn't considered melodic death metal. It's more on the symphonic melodic death metal side, bringing in elements of power metal and everything. And I am talking about Wintersun and their self-titled debut album from 2004. So of course, Wintersun was Jari Mienpa's solo project after he left Ensiferum. He did bring in a guest drummer, but other than the drums, he does everything here: keyboard, bass, guitar, vocals, synths, you name it, he's doing everything here. And this is just an absolute masterpiece. Say what you will about Wintersun and Jari these days with the crowdfunding stuff, and maybe their later output isn't quite on the level of this, but that's because this is an absolute masterpiece. How do you match a masterpiece? It's next to impossible. But this album, regardless of everything you might think about Wintersun, this album stands up. I still listen to this all the time. It absolutely slays. Easily my favorite melodic death metal album. Favorite songs on here: Beyond the Dark Sun, Battle Against Time, Star Child. This whole album front to back. You've got fast songs, you've got more ballady type songs. Anything you want, it's here, and just masterclass. And that is why it is in at #1 for me. So anyways, love to get your opinions down below. These are just my opinions as usual, so feel free to disagree. I got no problem with that. But yeah, until next time, Hammerheart Metal Reviews, out.